We got trapping season coming up, and we got some traps here that I need to get processed. That's boiled up, cleaned up, and dyed. That way I can use them this year, and I don't have to worry about them sitting out there and rusting and weathering away to nothing. Try to protect my investment here a little bit. So I've got some traps that are older that were pretty rusted up and bad that I have cleaned now and have weathered just a little bit. They've got a really nice patina on them, so the dye and stuff will stick to those really well. And I've also got some new traps that have got the oil and whatnot on them that will have to get cleaned off, boiled up before the dye. The dye won't stick to those quite as well. I'm going to try to. So this whole process is probably going to take me about a week's period of time. I'll video clip in as I'm dealing with them, but there will be a couple days here and there in between processes and steps. So just bear with me here, and I'll kind of go through the process of what I'm going to do. The ones that I had cleaned previously, they've got a nice patina on them now. These ones right here, the dye and stuff will stick to really well. That's just a light surface rust on these. It's not really hard. It's not hardly anything at all. I've done a cleaning video on these, and I've let these sit out in the weather afterwards just for a day or two, just to make sure that the dye and stuff will stick to these well. But anyway, I'm going to do these all the same process. I'm going to put all these in here. I've got some DP traps here that had rusted a little bit on me. I'd cleaned them, and where the metal that I had cleaned had started to rust, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to dip these in dye as well. And then I've got a box here of new traps that are, these are brand new, but they are all oily. See, they're all oily. So I'm going to have to clean all of these and get all that oil off so that I can get these dyed. All right. Lord, oh, these boys are heavy. I'm going to put them all in this barrel here, okay? I'm gonna get me some water going. I'm gonna fill this up, at least get them all covered. Get some dishwashing liquid all over them. I'm back on the traps here. The first barrel I put those in had a little pinhole in it. One of the boys must have shot it with a BB or whatnot. But it leaked all the stuff out of it, so I had to put them in a different barrel. And I'll show you a picture of them here. I let them soak in that soapy water for a couple days. I'm gonna pull them out today and give them a good power washing, and then I'm gonna start boiling them up. You don't have to go through the process of letting them soak in the soapy water and boiling them. A lot of people will just boil them, and that'll pull a lot of the oil and residue and stuff off of them. But I like to do it this way. It just seems like. It seems to me like they get a little bit cleaner this way, and that's what our goal is, to get them as clean as we can, so that dye has the best chance of sticking to them. And this is just the way I do it. So I'm gonna get these pulled out and get the power washing on them a little bit, and I'll get back. Here's kind of what they look like now. They've been sitting in this soapy water for 2 days, and lay them out here and do them one by one, get them all flipped over. Get them all real nice. We'll go ahead and flip them over and do the other side. Notice that some of my older traps, the ones that I had rusted, they're good. I could dye them right away and get them boiled up and dye them right away. But the other traps are still I'm noticing that the metal and stuff is still really smooth, even though I let them soak in the water for a couple of days. So I left my traps out just overnight with the dew that came along. That was just enough to get these traps of mine, just to get a nice little patina on them. You can see here when I talk about patina, you see how that's just a real light rust that started on these traps. That's just to help the dye stick on them just a little bit. You know, it's nothing heavy. It's just a really light surface rust. You know, you could clean them up and wipe it all off, but it just gives a little more surface area for your stuff to stick. And you see, like, these areas like right here, that aren't started rusting yet. There's still a little bit, still some oil left on those, which I've only soaked them and power washed them. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to boil them to get the rest of this stuff off. I've had these here boiling for a little while. I don't know how well you can see this, but you can see that oil right there that's come to the surface. What I'm doing is I've just got my hose stuck down in here in the water, and I'm going to flood this so that all this oil that you see on the floating around on top here, so all this oil that I've boiled off of my traps just flows out. You know, of course it all floats, so this is why I'm just flushing all of it out so that when I pull my traps out of there, they don't get recoated with the oil. So, you know, I got this at a little bit of an angle here to where it's going to run out. And I'll just run this water here for a while until I see all of that oil is gone. Now I've got all my traps there, you know, I've got them pulled out of my boiled water, and I let them boil for about 45 minutes. I'm going to cold dye my traps. I'm just going to put them in water, put the dye in there, dissolve it out, and then put my traps in there and leave them for, you know, 4 or 5 days. You can put these in the dyed water and boil them, or, you know, keep them get them good and hot and simmer there, and it's a lot faster than doing it my way. But my way just kind of allows me to give it 4 or 5 days, just kind of sit out here and not have to worry about it as much. And the longer they sit, the better it'll do. So if I get preoccupied and don't get back to them, no big loss. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the dye in the water here, get it all mixed up, and then put the traps in there and let them sit over. Get my trap dye here in my water. Be careful with this stuff. It don't like to come out of your skin very well. And get the water going. So now I got them all covered up with the dye and the water here. I'm going to let these set probably at least until the weekend, which is about 4 or 5 days. So and I'll get back with you whenever. It's been 10 days that I've left these traps soaking in this dye. I'm going to go ahead and pull these out, and I'll give you a little shot here of what the water looks like before I get it dumped out and start pouring these traps out of here. Now, if I had more traps to dye, I would probably try to save this. I don't know how well that will react. If you can keep it from freezing and, you know, busting a container or something, it might be worth saving. I'm not sure how that all plays out, if you can save that kind of dyed water solution for anything or not. But anyway, when we left off here last, it was a nice brown, nasty looking foamy stuff. It's turned into a nice black looking ink water now. But we'll get these traps pulled off, and I'm gonna hang them up on the chain link fence over here to dry. So here we go. As to what this dye solution looks like after it's set and cured up in the water here the way it's supposed to. Here's what some of them are. See how nice and black they are. What I do, you know, of course you're not supposed to, not to touch these anymore with your hands. But what I do is I have a bunch of these little hooks here that I've saved from bungee cords and whatnot. And you'll see I don't have no gloves on, but what I'm doing is I'm taking these traps and I'll pull them up. I'll get them situated here to where I'm not touching them, using these little hooks here, and I'll hang them up on the fence here to dry. And then I'll just keep on the repeat here. I had these all tied up and banded together when I boiled them, but I separated all of them when I went and dyed them, just so that whenever I went to hang them, I could hang them individually. And you can tell how nice of a job that's really done on these traps. Yeah, that's nice. Even these DP traps, they had some surface rust and stuff on here that I had scrubbed off with it clear back whenever I done a cleaning video with apple cider, and got these all stained back up there. They're all really nice. Turned out to be a really good, nice job. Well, here they are, all dyed up now, sitting up to dry. I can let them hang out here. I'll let them hang out here until I go to set them. But I wanted to look here and see if I can pick out a few. Okay, like this one right here. All right, now this was a new trap. You can see it's got a dye on it, but it's real kind of thin, like, you know, texture-wise, still pretty smooth. Okay, and we go down to this one here, which is an older trap, and you can kind of see where the patina was a little heavier on it, which allowed the dye to stick just a little bit more. Okay, so you know, these traps the dye will be a little bit better on them, but overall, this turned out to be a really nice job. So that's kind of my forte on how to get my traps ready for the season. Season's actually started for me just a couple days ago, and so I'm gonna let these things get finished up and dried here, and we'll get some set.